Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Amnesty International, I'd like to welcome you to this event in the Long Gallery on poverty, health and human rights. It's an interesting and important moment we meet, and not just because it's a first day of term for the MLAs, but we're just a little over a week away now from the UN Review Summit on progress towards the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals. And we thought it was a timely moment to have a discussion among ourselves in Northern Ireland, politicians, campaigners, people who work in the field, about the progress that has been made, the progress still to be made, and what role it is that this institution and Northern Ireland more generally might play over the next 5 years towards their ultimate achievement.
What would happen if the roof fell into a certain building when a group of people were present? Well, I would say that just about anybody who's anybody in international development in Northern Ireland is here today. So the roof fell in, there'd be some fascinating jobs in Belfast Telegraph on a Friday night. Obviously that won't happen, but certainly it's good to see so many people representing such a wide spectrum of this particular area present today.
External Relations sits with the Office of the First and Deputy First Minister, and we're delighted to have two ministers from the office here to address us today. So can I ask you to welcome Robin Newton and Jerry Kelly.
I suppose I want to say that everyone has a right to a decent standard of living, and government here is committed to ensuring that everything possible is done to assist those individuals, groups and areas that are experiencing poverty and social exclusion.
As an executive, we know we must seek to empower people and support them out of poverty and into employment and inclusion in wider society. And this aspiration should apply as much in developing countries as it does here. Although there has been progress in reducing poverty, the 2010 Millennium Development Goals report highlights how much there is still to be done.
Why should Ireland be concerned about what is happening in developing countries? I think that's a very valid question, but my answer is very simple. If a neighbor of yours is living in dire poverty and dies of hunger, will you tolerate your own conscience from not being pricked? That's the first question. From a very formal and abstract notion, economists will tell you that if we see development in the developing world, in Africa and Asia, then it's in your interest, because if you form relationships today, then it will actually endure for a longer term for your own self-interest. And that I was in Kenya, I was in Nairobi yesterday. I went to the market to actually try to send this PowerPoint to Patrick. And there was a young girl who was following me, and she wanted money. And I had a few shillings. And I actually then sat with her for a minute. And I said, I'm giving you the money, but will you go to school? Now, why do we do this? Everybody, Jim Wells said, that people in Northern Ireland donated more money than in Kent. Why did they do it? Because emotions are very important to human beings. No human being is happy when other people are actually being either denied of human rights or they cannot live properly. That's part of our human beings' nature, is the humanity and the dignity in us. That is what calls us again and again to help other people. I'll tell you a story. I did the case of challenging the anti-sodomy law in India in 2000, started in 2000, and 2009 we won a very, very major victory. A very well-known celebrity friend of mine, whose brother is gay, his brother told me, now I'm feeling very happy that I can go to India and I won't be prosecuted. Now, even that sort of situation, when you actually realize the rights of vulnerable groups, because it impacts on health also, means that when you visit a country, you don't feel unsafe anymore. So, but I think in the Millennium Development Goals, we have to be not satisfied that we are not likely to achieve the targets, but we should be happy with what we have done, and it should give us secure and courage, and more determination has to be made to fulfill those targets in the future. Now, what is the state of affairs? A lot of people think that HIV, we are losing the battle. Actually, we are winning the battle. I know personally from India, in terms of all programs, it is one of the best programs in terms of the money being dedicated to HIV, going to the places where it's required, no pilferage. This is an amazing state of affairs. Targets are important. Even if we don't achieve them, there's a benchmark. It actually means that there are progress indicators, no retrogression, and there's a motivation on the government to show to the international community that we are doing this. It has a major impact. I personally didn't realize the value of the goals, but I've seen that over a period of time. Therefore, although we may not achieve the targets ultimately, targets mean that we have the reason to do it. And if we don't achieve it, we actually reassess our situation and say we have to do it further. So then motivation continues and we learn lessons which are positive and negative. But most importantly, for a number of areas, particularly maternal and child health, I think it's structural issues. That's where it makes a big difference. I still remember in Delhi, I was there for 1 year, and one of the teachers was Brother Dunn from Ireland. What he taught me there actually has remained with me for a long period of time. It is about giving. And you know, what is important is that you don't have to put money in it. If you have people who could do, train people, actually help people to do certain things, that's more important. You remember the old Chinese proverb, you don't give food, but you train the people to actually get food. That's what's important. Thank you very much.
So what Shirley and I really would like to do for our short slot is try and talk a little, because we hear a lot about Millennium Goals and, you know, the bigger picture, but very often what's lost in all of this, isn't it, is those women. And they are women and they're not statistics. And I think if we could just maybe get some of that across, as midwives, that would really be our goal.
I stated earlier that 80% of the population in Malawi are farmers. What I didn't say is that the majority of farming is done by women. Women drive the economic climate in developing countries, and I know that's a definite case in Malawi. Women contribute much to the economic growth of their country, yet their voice is rarely heard. Gender issues are often discussed, with many programmes being implemented, yet for me it was hard to see the positive outcomes of many of those programmes. Even when a woman gets a decent education, decisions about her life would rarely be in her hands. Irene Khan of Amnesty reminds us that money alone will not solve the problems of maternal death. Women's health issues need to be given a high priority, and that high priority needs to come from their families, it needs to come from community leaders, and it desperately needs to come from governments throughout the world. Thank you.
In total, CADA represents over 5,000 staff and volunteers and over 200,000 supporters throughout Northern Ireland. And collaboratively, we raise in the region of £23 million per year from the Northern Ireland population. And obviously we've heard about the generosity of the Northern Ireland population earlier today. Our shared goals are to eradicate global poverty through the delivery of the Millennium Development Goals, to engage in global education, to promote sustainable development, to engage in ethical and fair trade, to respond to humanitarian emergencies, and through building peaceful states and societies through conflict resolution.
And again, just this direction, folks, that's lovely. And don't run away just yet. Here we go again now, that's good. Well done. That's lovely. And again there for you. Well done, thank you.
Thank you.